Uh, Good evening, students. I welcome you all to our weekly session that we held on Wednesday at 8 p.m. And we had two sessions till now on 2nd and 9th of November, respectively on Wednesday. And this is the third session that we are going to start today. And as you know, and still I'll recapitulate what we have been trying to do. So the idea of holding these sessions weekly is to merge two things together that is very productive for your examination perspective. One is of course the selection of a couple of topics, at least three topics per week from economy and banking and finance sector, and then trying to formulate some question over that and trying to see how question can be framed on that topic. And also we discuss when we discuss the content and facts and examples and data, we also discuss how to read the question, that is descriptive question, of course, and how to see what is being demanded in the question and how do we structure our answer, right? So essentially, these sessions are designed in a way where they cater to two needs of the examination. One is timely revision of current affairs and practice of answer writing, right? So this is something which we have been trying to do, and I hope you are uh, able to connect with the utility of the sessions, and we are receiving good feedback on this. And I would appreciate if you can circulate these videos more and more widely so that more students can join in. And one of the beauties of these sessions also is to facilitate a discussion because we are going live, and on YouTube comment box you can add your comments as you see the questions. You can bring in more examples, arguments, you can point out more content, and everybody else can see that, right? And in this 40-45 minute session, you also brush up very important three topics of the last week. So, in a sense, this 1 hour session is going to be very productive for all of you, and we'll start today. So, this is primarily for RBI Grade B examination, but its current affairs, sorry, is going to be productive for other kind of examinations also, where economy, finance, banking, etc. is being asked. So again, coming back to the utility of these sessions, these are live video batches where we comprehensively cover the syllabus. And how do we do that? We are going to pick three topics every week and we discuss it thoroughly. So, uh, in a way, we are going to cover the entire topic as we move ahead. Also, since this is a live session, you are going to ask your doubts in the comment box and you can add your remarks, feedbacks, how to improvise upon the sessions, etc. So, whatever your doubts are there, they may be related to content also, they may be related to general examination strategy, it can be related to how to write an answer, etc. Any kind of doubt can be posed and we'll try to solve it. And of course, the entire idea is to help you uh, deal with the examination better. So the exam centricity is there in our program. Before we move ahead with today's questions, this is something which I would like to share with all of you. Since winters have started, Oliveboard is coming with various plans, which is going to offer you subsidized rate for admission in the courses. For SEBI examination, RBI examination, you can get 35% discount and you can use the code winter when you're going to take the admission, right? Another very important program that we have started is pertaining to mentorship batch, where the students who will enroll will be given a dedicated mentor and complete study material. There will be a customized study plan, so on and so forth. So you can check out the website of Oliveboard and you can move ahead. Yeah, so we'll take a couple of social and economic issues today and discuss them ahead. So the first topic that is very important for discussion in so many ways and propped up in the news in the last week particularly, and it has been there in the news in the last financial year as well, and it is related to sovereign green bonds framework, right? So those of you who are up to date with the current affairs must have studied in the last week current affairs itself that Nirmala Sitharaman announced that India is going to launch its first mm, uh, sovereign green bond framework, right? So there are some facts associated with it. There is a conceptual background to it. So you can have a question like introduce the sovereign green bond framework, discuss its relevance for climate change, right? So you know that there is a climate change phenomenon, right? Because of industrialization, a lot of greenhouse gases are uh, emitted in the atmosphere and they trap the heat that is coming from the sun in the form of insolation. And what we have seen over the centuries that the overall average temperature of the atmosphere is increasing, and even that marginal increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius is a huge uh, increment in the terms of sustenance of different ecosystems for our food production, for the health of marine environment, for the melting and holding capacity of polar ice caps, for the sea level. The very big atmospheric and terrestrial phenomena are associated with a balance of temperature, right? So this climate change is happening. Weather change is temporary, it's small, and it's reversible. Climate change, on the other hand, is a long, irreversible, and stable kind of change, which we observe in temperature and precipitation by and large. So you can give a brief idea, let's say, about climate change first. That can be one approach, and then you can write about the increasing volume of engagement since 1980s and 1990s, that there was uh, so many conventions have been held, world leaders and world different international players have understood the significance of climate change and its uh, drastic and annihilating impact on humankind, right? And on other species as well. So you can write a brief background, you can write about intergovernmental panel on climate change. You can write about COPs that are being held every year, conference of parties, right? So you can write that, and then you can write in that in this series of COPs, conference of parties. 26th COP was held in Glasgow, and India came out with the concept of Panchamrit. And you can write a brief background that in Paris Convention also, one of the COPs was held in Paris a couple of years ago, where this idea of INDCs came up, intended nationally determined contributions, because what was happening under the Kyoto Protocol is that each country was given a target. But this shift was seen in Paris conference where countries came out with their own nationally determined contributions, that we are committed to the task of climate change reversal. We want to reduce the greenhouse gases, but let us decide on our own at the national level, at the national parliament discussions, what we are going to commit, how much we are going to cut, how we are going to shift to renewable energy, and so on and so forth. So that is intended nationally determined contributions, right? We intend to cut it, but how much and when and how, that all we will determine through our national level political deliberations, right? So that is the second part. And third, you can come that in this direction. Now, suppose you have committed that, okay, India is going to cut this much amount of greenhouse gases. Now, you know, don't write, but you know that if we shift from greenhouse gases, we have want to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases. Now, greenhouse gases come out from burning of fossil fuels, and your economy is wholly based on fossil fuels. So indirectly, it means that you are going to procure newer sources of energy, which is unconventional in nature. You are giving up fossil fuels, right? And you are going to create green infrastructure. You are going to create uh, entire infrastructure where green energy can be harnessed, solar energy can be harnessed, wind energy can be harnessed, geothermal energy can be harnessed, wherein you can replace fossil fuels in your economic consumption. Right? But to do all that, you need to launch so many projects, and that demands investment. Now the question boils down, where from that investment will come? You know the fiscal capacity of Indian state. We have been discussing about fiscal deficit, balance of trade. We have been talking about foreign exchange reserve prices. So many things we have been discussing in economy. So in this context, you understand that there is a limitation to capital availability. So it becomes important to raise the finance. Now you also know that when finance is raised in individual capacity also, we raise the finance. How do we do that? By purchasing some loan. We take loan from the government or from some free market economy. Or in traditional Indian society, there were sahukars, right? Money lenders were there. So they charge a lot of interest rate, right? Suppose somebody gives me 100 rupees, I don't return 100 rupees only. I return 110 rupees, 125 rupees, depending on the interest rate. So it is also be taken care of by the Indian state, of course, that if some public sector green project is coming, you have to raise the finance, but the cost of that finance should be less. So what government can do in the money market, it can come out with bonds. It can come out in the capital market in the terms of bonds. So wherever I am giving you a hint, wherever you see this term sovereign, it means the party which is floating the bond is the state, right? Public sector. Sovereign green bonds framework. Just split the terms and see. Sovereign means launched by the Indian state, right? Not by private party. Green bonds. It is bond, of course, but it is green. Green has become a signifier term for anything that has to do with green energy, right? Renewable energy. And framework is a simple term. So, sovereign green bond framework is an entire approach wherein Indian state is going to float that, okay, let's say we have Priya in chat box. So, Priya is going to purchase some sovereign green bonds, let's say with 1000 rupees. So, she will get the bond of Government of India. Government of India in that process will get 1000 rupees. Of course, Priya will earn something. So it's a fixed income instrument. It's cheaper capital than commercial banks. Now you know that if government has to raise some finance, there are n number of sources. It can float it bonds to the individuals like Priya, Bruce, Satyanarayan, Rahul, anybody. It can also go to private parties, it can go to banks, it can go to international players, it can go to commercial banks. So many approaches are there. So, like a rational decision maker, it will take finance or capital from that source where the servicing charge is less, I mean, where the interest rate is less. So, this is the whole idea being launching the sovereign green bond framework. Now, I think you understand the entire concept that first, there was a climate change. You can write about anthropogenic component wherein humans have contributed through industrialization. Second, you come up with institutional discussion that Kyoto Protocol was there, IPCC was there. You can write about Paris Conference. Then you can write about this INDCs. And then it was declared in the budget 22-23 by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman that we are going to come up with this kind of bond. So Modi ji in Glasgow also declared this Panchamrit in COP26. And then you write about this bond that this is about raising finance by the public sector for some green projects. Why it is important? Because we have some commitments for INDCs. And why this bond is significant? Because it's a fixed income instrument. The cost of the capital raised through this sovereign green framework is relatively lesser as compared to that when we borrow from commercial banks. So is that clear? Any doubt about this? Please write in the comment box. Those who are online, I'll take a pause. Yeah, I think we lost the voice. I think now it's audible. Yeah. So, yeah. So, answering to the Bruce question that can we criticize the industrialization of the West somewhere? So, the answer to that is yes, you can write that West is largely responsible for the climate change, but I suggest that you don't dedicate too much word and space on this because you need to understand this uh, crux of answer writing that we have been discussing, that what is the direct demand of the question, what is indirect demand of the question. So the direct demand of the question is sovereign green bonds framework, and climate change is the backgrounder only. So don't get swayed away. This is what we are trying to learn here, that on which aspect you have to focus more, right? So write as a backgrounder, but understand this थ्रस्ट कि कहां पर आपको फोकस ज्यादा करना है और कहां पर सिर्फ टच करते हुए आगे बढ़ जाना है, राइट? सो क्लाइमेट चेंज का इंट्रोडक्शन दे करके आप आगे बढ़ सकते हैं, राइट? Yeah, so next question is again very pertinent. इस तरह का questions we have been discussing in the previous sessions also. So the question is, how has the Russian invasion of Ukraine changed इंडियाज ऑयल इंपोर्ट पोर्टफोलियो? सो इट्स के जगह इंडिया आ जाएगा, ठीक है? हाउ हैज द रशियन इन्वेजन ऑफ यूक्रेन changed India's oil import portfolio? So you know that in the last week, the news was there that Russia has become India's top oil supplier, right? So you must remember here, some empirical data is very fruitful. इस तरह के सेक्टर में ऑयल हो गया, एटॉमिक एनर्जी है, तो इस तरह के सेक्टर में फूड है, जहां पर क्रिटिकल है आपके सर्वाइवल के लिए, नेशनल इंटरेस्ट के लिए, यू मस्ट रिमेंबर विच कंट्री, on which country we depend too much, right? So you know that Iran and Saudi have traditionally been India's top oil supplier. So you can have a broad sense in your mind how much barrels per day is being imported from Saudi and Iran in the past, and how much is being imported from Russia. You can write that briefly, that this much barrels of crude oil is being imported per day from Saudi and Iran in this month or last financial year, something like that, right? So once you do that, you can also write about why there is a change, or you can briefly discuss why there have been a critical dependence on Gulf area, because geographically we find a lot of reserves of oil in that region. So it's logical that those countries will become our primary source of oil. Don't go into geopolitics of the West, because this is not demanded in the question in the tangential dimensions also. The focus, if you have to write something, should be on Ukraine Russia conflict. So write as a backgrounder that yes, Saudi and Iran from Middle East or West Asia, whatever you want to call it, have been primary source supplier of our oil. Indian economy imports this much, let's say 90% of oil from outside. You can write that. You can also write that a lot of foreign exchange of India goes in procurement of crude oil. Something like that can come in the introduction. That will be counted as a good introduction. Then you can write about ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, right? Or Russian invasion of Ukraine. You can better call it that from Feb 2022 we have been seeing this Russian invasion of Ukraine, right? And you know that there is a geopolitics around it. All the Western countries, not directly in form of NATO, but indirectly in form of G7, have been calling out this aggression. They are trying to say that this is an act of war, human rights intervention, so on and so forth by Russia. And what is seen generally these days, that countries don't engage into armed conflict so easily. even if there is a whole range of conflict between them. What do? So sanctions are imposed on Russia. What kind of sanction? That West or Western Europe is not going to purchase Russia's oil. We are not going to purchase anything from you. We will convince other countries also not to purchase from Russia. So what impact it will have? So economy में एक term आता है crippling impact. It will cripple down the Russian economy. अब रशिया से अगर कोई एक्सपोर्ट कराएगा नहीं, कुछ खरीदेगा नहीं, तो रशिया को पैसे कहाँ से आएंगे, राइट? सो इन दिस वे एक बहुत अच्छा आइडिया आता है, जिसे हम कहते हैं कॉम्प्लेक्स इंटरडिपेंडेंस थ्योरी. The world and different countries are linked with each other in a very complex interdependence. I'll write this term in the chat box. Complex interdependence, that our interests are so much intermingled that it is not easy to separate the two countries. For instance, you look at the episode of China and America. There is a lot of word war between them, that China is doing that. It is not obligatory to follow international law. China is not giving any response to US. But despite that, the trade volume is huge. So no country can afford to irk another country. Yeah. Swift usage में exclusion Russia का. So yeah, these are different ways. As I said, different financial instruments are there. We will freeze your assets. We will freeze your bank accounts. We will impose so much of financial cost on the country that the country kneels down and gives up war and comes on the diplomatic tables, right? Now, अब वो sanction लगा रहे हैं तो वो influence, another term is sphere of influence. अब अमेरिका इंडिया पर प्रेशर बनाएगा कि we are imposing sanction on Russia, so we are doing our part in stopping the war. If you purchase this oil, our efforts will be wasted. We have to surround the Russia and strangle it. वो किसी को भी नहीं बेच पाए, उसको झुकना पड़े. But here comes the dilemma. Now, there was also a call by the West that what is India's moral commitment in this condition. So since morality was a term that came in, I chose that I will briefly tell you guys about realism. Of course, this is beyond the scope of economy, but still, one line introduction is going to do no harm to you. So there has been a lot of discussion about how two countries should interact. So traditionally, the approach between two countries has been realist. This is a theory of international relations. Just keep one line in mind. Realism says that perusal of national interest is the primary motivation of any nation state. Perusal of national interest. इंडिया के नेशनल इंटरेस्ट में क्या है कि हम सस्ता ऑयल खरीदें, हमारा फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व बचे, क्योंकि हम एक डेवलपिंग इकोनॉमी है, हमारे पास इतना पैसा नहीं है that we can afford to purchase costlier oil. And as Bruce had already written, I don't know why he has deleted that comment. That was a good point, that the bargaining power of West is increasing. I mean, Middle East is increasing. उनको पता है कि हमारी मोनोपोली है ओपेक कंट्रीज की, सो वी कैन आर्टिफिशियली इंक्रीज द प्राइस. दुनिया में कोई और सोर्स तो है नहीं इनके पास, इसीलिए हमारे पास मौका है, हम दाम बढ़ाएंगे, हर कंट्री को लेना पड़ेगा. इसीलिए इंडिया के पास क्या होता है, इसे हम कहते हैं डोंट पुट ऑल योर एग्स इन द सेम बास्केट. इफ यू डिपेंड टू मच ऑन मिडिल ईस्ट, इट विल आर्म ट्विस्ट यू. दिस इज समथिंग वेरी कॉमन इन इंटरनेशनल रिलेशन. सो इंडिया हैज टू बी ऑन लुक आउट कि हम वेनेजुएला से भी ले लें. अगर रशिया साखालिन में एक्सप्लोर कर रहा है, so let us invest something there also. Let us invest in Chabahar port so that we can go to Central Asia through Iran, and there also if oil and natural gas is coming, we can also take that IPI pipeline, right? India, Pakistan, Turkmenistan. So many things a country has to do to ensure its national interest. Because if crude oil is going to be costlier, it will have a cascading impact on the economy. Everything will be becoming costlier. So India simply said there is no moral conflict. We are simply pursuing national interest of the country, and it is in national interest of India to purchase cheaper oil, and we are getting that from Russia. That's it. Every country has this right to secure its national interest, right? So, any doubt, any comments after this question? Yeah, please. I'm waiting. Any comment, any remarks, any observations, or else we'll move ahead. All right. So, third question is another very important and interesting kind of phrase that has come out in the news, and it is about day of 8 billion. So, the question can be expected in the form of what do you mean by day of 8 billion, quote unquote, and what are some of the reasons for the rise in the world's population? So, you know that 15th November 2022 was declared to be the day when the world population will cross 8 billion, right? And you can factually write in the introduction that July 11 every year is celebrated as World Population Day, right? You know that if you create a graph that how with time the population has increased, you will see that if this is x-axis, let me draw it. If this is x-axis, sorry, y-axis, this is x-axis, you will see that it is shooting like this. Initially, the rise in population was very low because there was less gap between birth rate and death rate. And gradually with time, we are seeing that the death rate is reducing, but the birth rate is not reducing that much. So the gap is more, people are more, right? So there are multiple reasons that we are seeing a exponential rise in the growth of population. You can also look at this way. How much time did it take for humanity to cross 1 billion to 2 billion? 1 बिलियन से 2 बिलियन आने में आपको कितना टाइम लगा? ठीक है, वहां भी 1 बिलियन का ग्रोथ हुआ, और 7 बिलियन से 8 बिलियन आने में कितना टाइम लगा? वहां भी 1 बिलियन का ग्रोथ हुआ, लेकिन आप देखेंगे द टाइम टेकन टू कम from 7 billion to 8 billion was drastically less as compared to that between 1 billion to 2 billion. इसका सिंपल सा मतलब है कि the rise in population or the rate of change of population is increasing humongously. So there comes the second part. What are some of the reasons for the rise in world's population, right? So first of all, you know that with time we are able to control the nature more. पहले अकाल पड़ जाता था, फेमाइंस हो जाती थी, लोग मर गए. अब हम एग्रीकल्चर कर सकते हैं, हमारे पास इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बेहतर हो रहा है, वी कैन feed the more number of people in this world, we have better stable governments, there are lesser number of wars, right? All this is important to feed the people. There is also a global agreement that if some countries suffering from hunger, there are bodies and institutions at global level. There are international NGOs, there are hunger related campaigns by UN, all of which take care of hunger and famine in countries like Sub-Saharan Africa, Afghanistan, Middle East, refugee crisis, human rights crisis, genocide, war related situations. इन परिस्थितियों में ही तो लोग मरते हैं. So इन चीजों को टैकल करने के लिए we have a framework now, right? Second, पब्लिक हेल्थ में बहुत ज्यादा गुणात्मक सुधार हुआ है, right? Because with the rise of medical science, advances have been there. Earlier, what used to happen? Even with this basic kind of flu, people used to die. Now we have controlled all that. With chickenpox, people used to die. Now we can control that. We have better medicines, right? We have better medicines. We have operations. We have transplantations. So we can take care of human health in a better way. So all of this is responsible for cutting the maternal mortality or infant mortality or child mortality, right? Also, you will see that there is a huge focus on personal hygiene, because in absence of hygiene or consciousness related to hygiene, a lot of everyday infection was rampant in this world. Now people are being more conscious about their personal hygiene, which reflects into the death rate, right? So this is what humans have done. But there are also some social and cultural issues. It is also the result of some high and persistent levels of fertility in some countries. So I would suggest that nowadays everybody is on YouTube and all. You can simply have a look at YouTube and search fertility in different countries. So many graphical videos will come, very beautifully made videos where they will compare and contrast the fertility rate in different countries. Where in which country people are producing less children, people are producing more children. So in that way, you can also cite an example that in this part of the world, mostly in underdeveloped world or developing part of the world or least developed countries, LDCs, you will find more fertility, right? But in countries like Scandinavia and Japan, we are seeing aging of population. They are concerned about a different thing. They are encouraging even to produce more children, because in their population, more number of people is coming into the older age, right? I think you know about this. Still, I'll write in the chat box. You can revise it. Demographic transition theory, right? So in this says how does uh, population change from different phases. So you have a population pyramid kind of thing. That also you can have a look. It is there in the NCRT and I'm sure in other references source that you have. So these two things are there. It is also because of persistence level of fertility in other countries. So where this idea of day of 8 billion came or was coined, it came in United Nations World Population Prospectus of 2020. Yeah, exactly. So you know how this population is linked with the financial cost of servicing it, right? Because young population जहाँ होगा उसे हम कहेंगे demographic dividend, जिस फेज से इंडिया गुजर रहा है. You have people from 15 to 65, more number in that. So they are people who produce in the economy. But people who are lesser than 15 and more than 65, they generally don't participate in the labor force. So either they have to be fed, or they have to be provided social security, or they have to be provided free health and education. So many financial costs are there. So it is always better for a society and economy and a country that more of its population is healthy and in young age bracket. So this is about day of 8 billion. So these three questions I wanted to discuss with all of you. So what we have discussed today, one is related to climate change and how the capital for it is raised. It's a beautiful inflation of infusion of two topics. One is about environment and another is about economy. Second is about economy and international relation. And third is, of course, a general kind of social issue, of course, which has an impact on economy also. So I think you appreciate the way questions have been formed, and I think you now understand how uh, you can write the answers. So, for instance, I have mentioned a couple of theories like realism, demographic transition theory, complex interdependence, population pyramid. Now, if you use these kind of terms, catchphrases, or jargons, they will definitely add to value to your answer. So, if you can write simply that countries are dependent more on each other, but instead of that, if you can write complex interdependence theory says that war is not affordable these days. Your value increases, your articulation improves, your words are saved, right? So I am sure they will be there in your sources or population pyramid. You can draw a diagram. How does a normal population pyramid look like? How does a pyramid look like when the number of aging population is increasing? It's the inversion of pyramid. So these kind of things, if you bring into your answer, wherever possible, try to show some graph. You can also show some table where you have to draw a comparative analysis. You can draw a table where you can have to show a trend. You can draw this bar chart, right? This kind of simple line graph you can show. Wherever possible, cite reports, write dates. In the oil import wala question, you can write about number of barrels per day or how much of dollars are spent in that. So इस तरह की चीजें you should do in your answer that will enrich your the quality of your answer. So yeah, there is a separate regulatory YouTube channel on which you are watching this video, and the name of this video, this channel is RBI, SEBI, and Nabard examination prep. You can find the great resources there. We are producing more and more kind of categories of uh, programs on that, where that will facilitate the preparation of your examination. And second, you also can download Oliveboard's dedicated app for regulatory examinations, that is RBI, Nabard, and SEBI. Why we have come up with this dedicated channel and preparation app? The logic is simple, so that you can have a focused content and you don't have to navigate through content of other examination. To avoid the distraction, you can have this. And of course, I don't need to tell you, I think, what is the significance of having an app. This generation knows very well how to utilize the app and associated content as we are on the move, right? Again, coming back, recalling all of you yet again that Winter Fest is going on, and today 16th, day after tomorrow it is ending on 18th November. Till then, you can purchase these courses, SEBI 2023 and RBI 2023. And if you use the code WINTER in capital, you will get a discount of 35%. Right, so this is it from my end in this particular session. We'll meet again on Wednesday 8 p.m. with more questions. So the podium is for students now. Your comments, remarks are most welcome. Do you like the videos? Do you like the sessions that we are taking? Any suggestions that you have? Any points you want to make? Anything you can write.